Welcome to the Celestial Saga channel. We thought evolution was about strength and defense, but what if the main advantage of humanity is something else entirely? Today, we're going to tell you a story that changed the way the most advanced beings in the galaxy think. Watch to the end to find out what impressed them the most. The Australis Collective, far out in the cold expanse of deep space, stood as a quiet and isolated place. It had been many Exarians since the High Council had directed its focus toward Verosa, a planet once considered a failed experiment, reset after an asteroid impact caused a cataclysm. Over the ages, the outpost had become little more than a forgotten relic, an unheeded observer of the cosmos, neglected by everyone except a few of the most dedicated scholars. Jasper Hale, a lead researcher and direct descendant of Eldoria's renowned bioengineers, was among those rare individuals who still saw purpose in the ancient outpost. His deep indigo feathers, edged with silver, marked him as one of the elder Scifi still active in service. Jasper had devoted much of his existence to studying the faint, mysterious signals and whispers drifting through space, most of them nothing more than cosmic background noise. But today, something had drawn his attention. "Strange," Jasper murmured, narrowing his sharp eyes as he adjusted the organic control panel before him. The console, a living organism in itself, pulsed lightly under his fingers, humming gently in response to his commands. Beside him, his younger colleague Lila Brooks, a bright and inquisitive scholar with a vibrant orange crest, leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. "What's going on?" Lila asked eagerly, her feathers shifting with excitement. She had been trained by some of Eldoria's finest minds, and her keen intellect had earned her a position at the distant outpost, though her patience was still developing under Jasper's mentorship. Jasper looked at her, his expression serious. "I'm detecting something, radio transmissions to be exact. They're coming from Verosa." Lila blinked in surprise. "Verosa? But that's the Death World, right? The one we reset after the dinosaurs failed to evolve? There shouldn't be anything there, at least not any intelligent life." Jasper's voice, though filled with intrigue, carried an undertone of uncertainty. "That's what we've always believed. But these signals, they're not random noise. They have a clear structure. Someone or something is transmitting from Verosa." Lila's feathers fluttered, her excitement growing. But how's that possible? Verosa was always seen as a dead world, one where no sentient beings existed. How could anything have changed? Jasper took a slow, thoughtful breath, his mind racing through the possibilities. It appears that in the countless Exarians since we last checked on Verosa, life has not only survived but has evolved in ways we never imagined. These signals, they suggest not just intelligence but advanced intelligence. The realization hit them both as though a sudden shockwave had rippled through the room. Verosa, a planet previously dismissed, was now transmitting signals across the cosmos. The implications of this were staggering. "We need to investigate this further," Lila said, her voice firm with resolve. "If life on Verosa has developed this much, it could change everything we know about evolution, about the very nature of sentience." Jasper nodded, his mind racing with the gravity of the situation. "Indeed. We'll need to organize a research mission to Verosa. We'll gather as much data as possible. Observe, record, and bring our findings back. The Council must be notified, but we also need to ensure that our research is thorough. This could be one of the most groundbreaking discoveries in our history." As they prepared to explore the signals further, Jasper activated one of the stronger transmissions. The speakers of the organic console crackled to life, filling the outpost with a smooth, melodic sound. Something completely foreign to the Australis Collective. Lila's eyes widened in wonder as she listened intently. What is that sound?" Jasper, equally mesmerized, tilted his head as the music continued to flow through the room. "It's pleasant, isn't it? Could it be some form of communication?" The music continued, its gentle rhythms of smooth jazz reverberating through the chamber. For a fleeting moment, both Jasper and Lila were swept away by the alien sound, a stark contrast to the usual silence of space. Then, as the music faded, a voice followed, clear, distinct, and speaking in a language they didn't recognize. But its tone carried sophistication and ease. "Experience the comfort of the new Stride Star collection, where elegance meets durability. Your feet deserve the best. Stride Star, walk the earth." Lila blinked in confusion, her feathers shifting to a puzzled pattern. What is this Stride Star, and why do they need something for their feet?" Jasper, just as perplexed, replayed the transmission, focusing on the peculiar terminology. It sounds like some form of protection or decoration for their feet. But why would they need such a thing? Our feet are naturally tough, able to handle the harshest conditions without injury. What could make theirs so vulnerable that they require this stride star? The two Australis collective exchanged a glance, both filled with a mixture of confusion and curiosity. Jasper's gaze narrowed as he considered the implications. It appears these beings have not only developed intelligence, but also a culture that demands protection for something as fundamental as their feet. This is something we need to investigate further. Lila, her initial shock now replaced with growing intrigue, smiled. This mission to Verosa might turn out to be more revealing than we ever expected. If they have concepts like stride star and need to protect their feet, there's so much we could learn. Jasper nodded, his own excitement now mixed with a sense of wonder. Indeed, we must prepare to embark on this journey right away. Verosa may hold the answers to questions we've been pondering for Exarian. The progress of this world could unlock insights into the nature of life and evolution, perhaps in ways we've never imagined. As they finalized their preparations, the smooth jazz continued to play softly in the background. Jasper and Lila couldn't shake the feeling that Verosa, the once dismissed death world, was on the verge of changing the course of their civilization. With a sense of anticipation, they set about readying themselves for a journey that would surely bring unexpected discoveries. The docking bay of the Australis collective research vessel hummed with life as Jasper and Lila made their final checks. The ship, a unique fusion of living rock and flexible organic material, was prepared for the voyage to Verosa. Pulsing tendrils of bioengineered material stretched faintly across the ship's surface, responding to the energy of the crew as they moved about, completing their last-minute preparations. Jasper, his indigo-feathered crest glowing under the bioluminescent lights, made a final adjustment to the control panel embedded in the ship's hull. His movements were methodical, the product of countless Exarians spent refining his skills. Beside him, Lila's vibrant orange feathers flared with eagerness, her eyes bright with anticipation. "Do you think Verosa will be anything like we expect?" Lila asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and nervousness. Jasper paused for a moment, considering her question. "Expectations can be dangerous, Lila. We've studied the signals, analyzed the transmissions, and yet we still know so little about what we're about to find. Verosa has evolved in ways we could never have predicted. That alone should be enough to remind us not to make assumptions." Lila nodded, her feathers settling into a more thoughtful position. A calmer pattern, Jasper thought. But you're right. It's hard not to wonder. We've already glimpsed parts of their culture, heard their music, and even observed their strange interest in something called stride star, an odd form of protection for their feet. It's all so foreign to us. Jasper smiled softly. Indeed, foreign it is. The Terrans seem to have developed a culture revolving around ideas we've never even considered. Take their need for foot protection, for example. It's such a basic necessity, yet so different from our own way of life. It hints at a certain fragility, but also an ingenuity that deserves our respect. Lila's eyes shone with interest. And their technology, what we've learned, shows they've surpassed what we once thought were their basic tools. But what if they've discovered something that we haven't even considered? What if they've found a way to harness their environment in ways we can't yet comprehend? Jasper's expression grew more thoughtful. That's precisely why this mission is so crucial. Verosa may hold the answers to questions we've never even thought to ask. Their progress could offer us new perspectives on life, intelligence, and even the universe itself. But we must approach them with caution and humility. We are not there to impose our views. We're there to learn and observe. Lila tilted her head, feathers shifting into a pattern signaling deep thought. "Do you think they'll recognize us if we make contact? Do you think they'll see us as we are?" Jasper's gaze softened. "That, Lila, is one of the greatest unknowns. The Terrans are intelligent, that much is clear. But how they perceive us, beings from a distant world, is still a mystery. They might see us as something beyond their comprehension, or perhaps they'll view us as equals, fellow explorers in this vast universe." Lila sighed softly, a mix of excitement and responsibility in her voice. "I guess that's what makes this journey so exhilarating and so daunting at the same time. We're stepping into the unknown, and we don't know what we'll find or how it will change us." Jasper nodded, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "That's the heart of exploration, Lila. The unknown is our greatest challenge and our greatest reward. Whatever we discover on Verosa will undoubtedly reshape our understanding of the universe, and perhaps even ourselves. The ship's tendrils retracted into the hull as the final preparations were completed. The vessel hummed with life, ready to embark on its long journey to the distant world once considered insignificant. As the ship began to rise, Lila gazed out through the viewport at the stars beyond. "We're ready, Jasper. Whatever Verosa has in store for us, we're ready." Jasper smiled, feeling the weight of the journey ahead, but also the excitement that came with it. "Then let's see what the Terrans have to teach us. The stars await." The ship's engines pulsed, and with a final hum, it launched into the void, leaving the safety of their outpost behind. Jasper and Lila watched as their homeworld, Eldoria, faded into the distance, their minds already drifting toward the mysteries that awaited them on Verosa. The ship glided silently through the depths of space, its bioengineered structure pulsing faintly as it cut through the void. Inside, the air hummed with the steady rhythm of the ship's systems, but there was an underlying tension between its two occupants. Jasper, the feathered sage, stood before the observation deck, his gaze distant as he watched the stars pass by. His thoughts, however, were fixed on the signal from Verosa, a planet they had once thought lost, reset by their ancestors. Now, a new species had risen from the ruins and was sending signals into space. And now, he and junior observer Lila were on their way to investigate. Behind him, Lila's excitement was palpable, her feathers puffed up as she leaned forward over her console, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Do you think they'll look like us?" she asked suddenly, breaking the silence. "I mean, they're descended from life we saw on Earth, right? From the dinosaurs. Maybe they've evolved in a way that's similar to us." Jasper's crest shifted slightly as he turned to face her. "It's possible," he said thoughtfully. "The dinosaurs shared some of our traits. We designed them to be resilient, bipedal, and well-adapted to their environment. If the life that survived the asteroid evolved from them, they might have retained some of those characteristics." Lila's eyes brightened, her feathers ruffling with excitement. "Can you imagine a species that looks like us but developed independently on Verosa? It'd be like looking into an alternate version of our own past." Jasper tilted his head, considering the possibility. "The dinosaurs were our creation, powerful and formidable, but ultimately limited by their lack of intelligence. They ruled the planet for millions of cycles, but they never developed the sentience needed to control their environment or advance beyond basic survival instincts. That's why the Australis Collective reset the planet with the asteroid. It's possible they share some resemblance to us," Jasper said slowly. "But if they've evolved sentience, they're likely very different from the dinosaurs. They've probably developed the ability to adapt through intelligence, not just physical traits." Lila leaned forward in her seat, her crest rising in anticipation. "Maybe they're both intelligent and strong like us. It'd be incredible if they've managed to evolve so quickly after the asteroid." Jasper's feathers settled as he considered her words. Strength and intelligence aren't opposing traits. The Australis Collective themselves embody both. But what concerns me isn't that the Terrans may be strong or intelligent. It's how quickly they've developed. We evolved slowly over countless cycles, with patience and timing shaping our bodies and minds. But the Terrans seem to have emerged in what feels like the blink of an eye. "That's what troubles me," Jasper continued, his voice thoughtful. "It hasn't been long since the reset. By all accounts, life should have taken much longer to reach this stage. If they've developed sentience and technology in such a short time, it raises serious questions about how they did it." Lila's feathers flickered with curiosity. "You're saying they evolved too quickly?" Jasper nodded. "Evolution is a slow process, even for the Australis Collective. It took countless cycles for us to reach the point where we developed advanced thought, civilization, and technology. But if the Terrans reached this point so quickly, it suggests they've found shortcuts." His tone darkened. "Rapid evolution often has consequences. They may not fully understand the forces they're working with." Lila's excitement remained. "Isn't that fascinating? Maybe they've discovered ways to evolve and adapt faster," Jasper countered, his voice steady. "Or they may have relied too heavily on technology, making them ill-equipped for harsher, more hostile environments. But what if they are both sentient and well-adapted?" Lila's feathers rippled. "Whatever they are, we'll find out soon enough." Jasper's gaze softened, yet a sense of unease lingered in his mind. Their journey to Verosa was about to lead them into uncharted territory, both exhilarating and uncertain. Be something spectacular, Jasper thought to himself. Something we've never encountered before. As Lila returned to her work, her mind blossomed with images of potential worlds and beings. But Jasper remained still, his thoughts clouded. Both anticipation and an unsettling feeling lingered in him. The swift development of sentience on Verosa raised more questions than answers, and he couldn't help but wonder what the Australis Collective were about to discover on a planet they had once wiped clean. The Australis Collective ship glided smoothly into the outer reaches of Verosa's system, its bioengineered hull blending effortlessly with the deep darkness of space. Jasper stood by the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the distant blue and green planet. His mind was alive with excitement, but there was also a weight of unease that hung over him. Lila, her fingers dancing across the controls, prepared the long-range scanners to assess the life forms on Verosa. "Let's begin," Jasper said, his voice calm but laced with curiosity. "We'll finally see what has come from the remnants of our original experiment." The ship's systems buzzed and clicked as the scanners swept across the planet's surface, and data began to flood in. Signals of intelligent life, technology, and sprawling settlements. Lila's fingers moved quickly, isolating the life forms responsible for these developments. "There," she said, zooming in on the largest city. "These must be the dominant species." The display sharpened, and both Jasper and Lila froze. What appeared on the screen was nothing like what they had anticipated. The creatures were covered in soft, pliable skin, with hair growing from their heads and parts of their bodies. They looked nothing like the Australis Collective, nothing like the powerful reptilian dinosaurs that had once ruled Verosa. Jasper's feathers rippled in disbelief. "Mammals," he muttered, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. "They survived and became the dominant species?" Lila's eyes widened. Her fingers hovered over the controls. But they were so insignificant. The dinosaurs were supposed to be the apex life forms, the ones that would rise to sentience. How did mammals, of all things, come to dominate Verosa? They both stared at the screen, trying to make sense of the image before them. The mammals moved purposefully through their cities, interacting, building, and thriving. But their fragile bodies were unmistakable. Their skin lacked the protective scales of reptiles, and their exposed features appeared vulnerable to the harsh elements. "They're so fragile," Jasper muttered, lowering his crest. "These creatures couldn't have survived this long without outside help." Lila zoomed in. "Look at their bodies. Most of them wear outer coverings." Jasper frowned. "This isn't what we expected. They've developed intelligence, yes, but their physical form is far more delicate. These coverings seem to compensate for a lack of natural defenses." Lila continued her analysis, her excitement growing. "Feathered sage, it seems they even have a need to cover their feet." Jasper glanced over, mildly curious. "Foot coverings?" Lila enlarged the display. "Yes, they call them shoes. Every Terran wears them, no matter where they are. On the street, in their homes, in every image we've gathered, their feet are always covered." Jasper frowned and leaned in closer. "Shoes? But why? What's wrong with their feet?" Lila's crest fluttered in excitement. "Well, we've already figured out that their bodies are too feeble to handle the environment. The shoes clearly protect them." Jasper studied the images more closely. "No, Lila, it's more than just protection. They've developed an entire range of footwear, different styles, materials, even symbols of status." Lila's fingers moved rapidly over the controls, pulling up more data. "You're right. It's everywhere. I must have missed it before. It's like shoes are central to their entire function. Look at how intricate some of these designs are, made for specific tasks, for social reasons, for more than just survival." Jasper's feathers flicked with growing intensity. "Correct. It seems shoes aren't just tools. They've become an essential part of their existence." Lila's eyes widened in realization. "We've been studying the wrong things, haven't we? Their technology, their cities, those are secondary. This is what allowed them to survive." Jasper nodded, his mind racing. Shoes are how they adapted, how they overcame their inherent fragility. Every step they take relies on these coverings. It's their way of evolving without waiting for their bodies to catch up. Their research intensified. What had started as a simple observation quickly spiraled into an all-consuming obsession. They pored over every image, every design, examining the role of shoes in Terran society. What had seemed like a minor detail revealed itself to be the foundation of everything the Terrans had achieved. Lila's voice trembled with excitement as she swiped through endless images of shoes. Look at the variety. Ceremonial shoes, athletic shoes, protective boots. They've engineered solutions for every environment, every situation. Jasper stopped pacing, his eyes narrowing as he spoke. This is their key, their survival, their progress. It's all tied to this. We need to focus all our resources here. Lila, her excitement bordering on mania, nodded. I'll redirect everything. Forget the cities, forget the machines. Shoes are the answer. The initial disappointment of their findings faded into the background, replaced by a feverish dedication to understanding the role of shoes in Terran society. What had once been a simple curiosity had turned into an obsession. The ship had transformed into a shrine to shoes. Screens that once displayed maps of cities and networks were now filled with endless images of footwear. Every corner of the ship's research space was crowded with holograms of boots, sandals, high-top sneakers, and slippers, each one categorized, analyzed, and discussed with frenzied intensity. What had begun as a simple exploration had taken on a life of its own. Jasper and Lila spoke little of anything else. Lila's voice trembled as she swiped through a new collection of images. "What are these?" she asked, her tone unsteady. "The Terrans wear these just for leisure. Amazing shoes, not for survival but for comfort." Jasper stood nearby, his eyes locked on a display of ceremonial shoes, ornate and vibrant, seemingly unnecessary yet utterly mesmerizing. His feathers lay flat as frustration slowly crept into his thoughts. "In art, we cannot partake," he muttered to himself. Lila, lost in her own hysteria, didn't hear him. "Look at how they've perfected the form. Shoes for running, shoes for protection, shoes for status. It's not just survival, it's expression. Each pair tells a story." Jasper's gaze drifted downward to his own feet, bare and naturally adapted to his environment. For the first time in his long life, he felt a sense of incompleteness. His body, evolved over millennia, no longer seemed sufficient. The Terrans, fragile as they were, had managed to create something more, something the Australis Collective had never imagined. "Why can't we wear them?" Jasper muttered, his voice heavy with a mix of frustration and resentment. "Why must we be denied this?" Lila, barely looking up from her console, was too absorbed in her latest discovery to respond immediately. "They're their solution to fragility," she said quickly. "We don't need them." Jasper's voice grew more forceful. "But perhaps we do. Maybe there's something here we've overlooked. The Terrans found a way to make themselves more than what nature gave them. And here we are, stuck in our natural forms." Lila paused, her feathers twitching before diving back into her work. "It's their weakness that led to this. Their feeble feet are what makes shoes necessary. We've evolved past that, feathered sage." Jasper's crest flared, his gaze fixed on the intricate designs of the Terran shoes, each one more captivating than the last. "Evolved past them? No, I think we've missed something vital. Look at the power in these creations. They've reshaped themselves, made themselves greater through these shoes. And we..." His voice faltered as if the full weight of his realization had hit him all at once. "We can't even experience it." Lila froze, her fingers hovering over the controls. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face as she looked up. "Are you saying you wish to wear them?" Jasper nodded slowly, the thought settling in his mind like an undeniable truth. Yes, I do. Perhaps we don't need them, but perhaps we've missed something in believing that natural evolution is enough. The shoes, these shoes, are a testament to the Terrans' ingenuity, their ability to overcome their frailty. Shouldn't we also seek to transcend what we are? Lila blinked, her feathers ruffling in confusion. "But feathered sage, we don't need them." Jasper's gaze hardened. "Need? No. Want? Yes. The Terrans have created something so profound, so integral to their very existence, and we can only watch from the outside. How can we truly understand if we don't experience what they have created?" There was a long pause as Lila absorbed his words. The ship hummed softly around them, the only sound in the room. Jasper's eyes remained fixed on the shoes on display, which now seemed to pulse with an almost hypnotic allure. His frustration deepened into something more primal, something unsettling. "They walk on a world we reshaped," Jasper said quietly, but with intense emotion. "They walk on it with shoes that we could never conceive of. They've taken the evolution of their bodies into their own hands. They've achieved something we have not. Lila, unsettled but still captivated by the data on the screen, hesitated. Are you suggesting we make shoes for ourselves? Jasper's eyes gleamed with a wild intensity. Yes, why not? What if this is the next step in our own evolution, one that we've ignored? The Terrans have shown us what we could become if we dared to shape ourselves in new ways. Why shouldn't we try? Lila, torn between reason and the contagious madness gripping them both, stared at Jasper, speechless. The idea seemed absurd, yet something about it was compelling, something she couldn't completely dismiss. You really think it would make a difference? Lila asked, her voice unsure. Her crest slowly began to rise as she processed his words. Jasper's feathers ruffled, his mood growing even more unstable. It's not about difference, it's about experience. We've studied shoes endlessly, but we've yet to feel them. What if this is the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of the Terrans? We need to know what they know. We need to walk as they walk. Lila, feeling the pull of his reasoning, slowly nodded. I'll start gathering the data. We can design a pair just to see what it's like. Jasper smiled, his eyes wild with excitement. Yes, that's it. We'll design them ourselves. We'll wear them, Lila. We'll wear the shoes, and then we'll finally understand. We'll see the world as they do. Lila returned to her console, her fingers shaking as she input the commands to begin the design process. The room buzzed with feverish energy as their obsession reached its peak. Jasper stared at the holograms, imagining the feel of the shoes on his feet, imagining the connection he would make to the Terrans, a connection that had eluded him until now. His mind raced with the possibilities, the realization that soon he would walk in their shoes. The Terrans had changed the very fabric of their existence through this simple tool. Now Jasper and Lila would do the same. It was madness, yes, but in that madness they believed they would find the truth. Jasper's workshop on the ship had become a chaotic mix of makeshift materials, bits of cloth, synthetic fibers, bioengineered scraps, all scavenged from the ship's stores. His focus, once sharp and disciplined, had been replaced by a manic drive. The project was clear in his mind. He would make shoes just like the Terrans. But as the hours passed and the pile of materials grew, the reality of the task began to settle in. Constructing footwear was no small feat, even for a mind as sharp as Jasper's. His feathers ruffled in frustration as he adjusted one of the crude straps he had tied around his foot. It pinched, digging into his scaled skin, but he ignored the discomfort, too caught up in the excitement of his creation. Lila hovered nearby, her feathers twitching with curiosity. Feathered Sage, are they ready? Jasper, his crest slightly lowered in concentration, nodded. I believe so. It's not perfect, but it's a start. The shoes, if they could be called that, were crude, a collection of straps and mismatched materials awkwardly cobbled together. They barely resembled the intricate footwear of the Terrans, but to Jasper, they represented the first step toward something greater. Behold, Jasper declared, stepping forward with exaggerated confidence. The first Australis collective shoes? Lila clapped her hands together, her excitement infectious. They're impressive for a first attempt, she said, though she tilted her head, studying the makeshift creations. Though they do look a bit rough. Jasper straightened his posture, determined to make the most of his new footwear. It's only the beginning, Lila. Every innovation starts somewhere. Now let's have a proper look at them, shall we? Lila quickly cleared a space in the center of the room, eager to witness the moment. A fashion show! That's what the Terrans call it, she exclaimed, her feathers flaring with amusement. Let's see how they perform. Jasper, caught up in the playful mood, began to strut awkwardly around the small space. His movements exaggerated as he showed off the shoes. But with each step, his face began to tighten, his crest twitching as the discomfort became impossible to ignore. Lila stifled a laugh. Feathered Sage, how do they feel? Jasper's enthusiasm faltered as he slowed his steps. The awkward fit of the shoes was becoming too much to ignore. Jasper's discomfort was becoming painfully obvious. These shoes pinch. They're too tight. My toes feel trapped, he muttered under his breath. Lila couldn't hold back her amusement. You look like you're in agony. Jasper stopped, his posture slumping with defeat. Agony, yes. This isn't at all what I envisioned, he replied, shifting his weight in a vain attempt to find a more comfortable position. Uncomfortable. What did I do wrong? Lila crouched down, studying the shoes carefully. According to our research, she said, tapping one of the straps with a gentle touch, the Terrans have perfected the art of shoe design. It's a skill, It's not just about throwing materials together. It's about balance, structure, and comfort. Jasper huffed, lowering his crest in frustration. So it's not as simple as I thought. I understand now why they invest so much time in perfecting it. Lila nodded eagerly, stepping back. Exactly. Shoes are more than just functional. They're fine-tuned through a meticulous design process. The Terrans have spent centuries perfecting this craft, choosing the right materials, ensuring proper proportions, even the way they distribute weight. It's all carefully planned. That's why they can wear them for hours without discomfort. Jasper glanced down at his feet, his earlier excitement draining away as the reality of his clumsy attempt settled in. So, I'm nowhere near mastering it. Lila smiled gently. It'll take time, Feathered Sage. We've seen the effort that goes into every pair. It's not about strength or intellect, it's about precision and patience. The Terrans aren't just solving a problem, they're crafting solutions through ingenuity. Jasper sighed, shaking his head, and stepped out of the makeshift shoes, relieved to feel his bare feet again. It seems there's far more to this than I imagined. The Terrans have created something far more intricate than we gave them credit for. Lila tilted her head, still observing the discarded shoes with interest. It's truly remarkable. These delicate creatures found a way to turn something as basic as walking into an art form. It's more than just survival. It's about control. Control over their environment, over their vulnerability. Jasper nodded slowly, his eyes now viewing the shoes through a new lens. And here I thought they were just simple coverings. Lila smiled again, a touch of understanding in her expression. Now we see, it's a craft, one we need to study further. Jasper's eyes turned toward the pile of materials nearby, a sense of newfound respect growing within him. Yes, we must continue. I think I rushed things, assuming it was simple. I need to approach this the way they did, with care, precision. Lila's eyes sparkled with renewed energy. We can refine the process, study their methods more closely. We'll learn their trade, Feathered Sage, and perhaps then we'll truly understand why shoes are so central to their survival. Jasper chuckled softly, the tension of earlier fading as his focus shifted back to the challenge ahead. Indeed, I was too eager. But now, I see, this is a mastery we must respect. Let's continue our research. The two Astralis collective exchanged determined glances. The frenzy of their obsession still lingered, but now tempered with a newfound patience. The fashion show had ended in failure, but the lesson was clear. The Terrans had created something far more profound than they had initially realized. Jasper picked up the crude shoes, his fingers running along the uneven stitching. Next time, he murmured quietly, I'll get it right. Days stretched into weeks, and what had once been excitement gradually gave way to frustration. No matter how many times they tried, they couldn't replicate the precision, comfort, or design of Terran footwear. Jasper sat at his workstation, staring at yet another failed attempt. The shoe, which he had worked on for hours, had collapsed under its own weight. The stitching had come undone, the sole was uneven, and it was far too uncomfortable to wear. Jasper sighed heavily, his feathers drooping with exhaustion. This is impossible, he muttered, running a clawed hand over his crest. How do they do it? These delicate creatures with their soft bodies and vulnerable forms manage to create something so intricate. He looked at the pile of failed shoes scattered around them. We thought they were inconsequential, he said softly. And yet they've mastered what we can't even grasp, something as simple as shoes. We can't even replicate it. Maybe we were wrong to dismiss their external coverings as nothing more than a crutch. Jasper gazed out at Verosa below, bathed in the soft light of the planet's sun. It's ironic, he mused. We came here expecting to find creatures inferior to the Astralis collective, beings who had evolved too quickly and relied too much on their technology to survive. But what we found is a species whose fragility became their greatest strength. Lila rose from her seat and joined him by the viewport. They've taken control of their own evolution. Where we saw weakness, they saw opportunity. They've manipulated their world, shaped it, and in doing so, have become stronger in ways we never imagined. Jasper nodded, his crest rising slightly in acknowledgement. Indeed, the Terrans have advanced far beyond their biology. Their ability to manipulate their environment shows a mastery we underestimated. Lila's feathers twitched with a mix of admiration and respect. We must record everything, our observations, our failures, their successes. This is the culmination of our mission, the discovery that these mammals have achieved something profound. Together, they began compiling their final report. Their earlier frustrations were now giving way to a deep respect for the Terrans' ingenuity. Every failed shoe, every scrap of data, every image they had analyzed was carefully documented, forming a detailed narrative of the Terrans' accomplishments. What had started as an observation of an unexpectedly fragile species had evolved into the revelation that these beings had transcended their limitations through skill and ingenuity.